Visitors to the Musée d'Orsay today don't always notice it. But just below the entrance you can spot a few relics of the old station platforms.
Here we are at the lower level, which is where the trains arrived. We can imagine how the platforms were thanks to the pillars that are still here, as they carry the entire structure.
More than 200 cast iron pillars are distributed underground at platform level. They support the ground floor of the station, and in particular, the entire metal frame of the monument.
The whole metal structure is immense. We know that the pillars, at certain structural points, can take up to 600 tons of load.
But what are the secrets of this gigantic metal frame, so well hidden in the stone? The station's architect came up with an amazing superstructure whose construction techniques are reminiscent of those of the Eiffel Tower. To build the Orsay station, the Paris-Orléans company chose a well-known architect, Victor Laloux.
Victor Laloux was already known. At the time he entered the Orsay station competition, he was working on the one at Tours station.
It's still architecture with one eye on the past, but with the new techniques of our time.
Rather academic in style, Laloux was also a modernist and a great connoisseur of metal construction, of which this was the golden age.
In 1900, the thinking was that a three-dimensional metal structure was a passport to anything. It made possible the skyscrapers that were shooting up in New York and Chicago.
Victor Laloux planned to use all of the possibilities of metal, in particular its solidity, especially as the station was only 42 meters from the Seine.
The foundations were difficult to build, as the ground was very boggy.
To build the station on solid foundations, they had to begin by raising the ruins of the Palais d'Orsay. The first phase of the work began in April 1898, at the same time as the tunnel. Of the 30,000 cubic meters of stone from the former palace, 10,000 was reused to build blocks of masonry 5 meters below the ground floor at future platform level. These blocks provide a powerful bedrock for 200 metal pillars, which themselves support 41 rows of transverse beams. This network of metal beams forms a powerful floor upon which the entire framework of the station can rest.
We have a metal floor system that allows for wider spans, which limits the support points, and that's what's interesting.
We therefore built a huge structure, entirely in metal, with rounded metal ribs for the ceilings.
The solidity of the floor made it easy to create an unobstructed interior space, with a huge nave, 40 meters wide by 32 meters high, and a succession of 7 domes all along the Great Hall. For this precision work, Victor Laloux used the same metal as the Eiffel Tower, puddled iron.
Puddled iron was widely used from 1850. It's a technology that takes pig iron and creates a wrought iron that is more malleable.
The construction techniques of the metal structure of Orsay were also fairly close to those of the Eiffel Tower, with parts prefabricated in the workshop. They were then assembled on site with rivets.
We see these rivets, which really are the signature of this technology and which ensure resistance and real durability.
Thanks to these optimized techniques, and also to the use of powerful mechanical devices like this 32-meter crane, the job would be completed within 2 years. But Victor Laloux would also hide its modern metal structure, the better to blend into the Orsay environment.
There was no question of leaving the metal structure visible where the station was, in the centre of Paris facing the Louvre.
This is more than just a technological space. The challenge is to design a monumental station.
On 3 of the 4 sides of the monument, Laloux thus designed large facades in the purest French tradition, composed of 8,000 cubic meters of sculpted stone. But these facades are but an imposing decoration, created with the same techniques as American skyscrapers.
We already have skyscrapers 200 meters high in New York, for example, metal structures with stone cladding.
The Orsay facades are, in reality, only simple stone walls, 2 meters thick. They are just placed on the metal structure below and on the side, and are retained by anchors, metal bars embedded in the stone.
The station is simply clad in stone. It's like we built a wall to finally shut out metal architecture.
It's above the nave, in the attics of the monument, that we notice the load-bearing role of this metal framework. This is what's known as Orsay's second skin, a very ordered network of metal beams along the entire length of the nave.
It's a forest of metal, which underpins the stability of the work and of the vault especially.
The double skin affords access to the vault through these openings cut in the glass roof, in harness 20 meters up. Rope access technicians are restoring part of the nave's 1600 staff coffers, or caissons. Coffering decorated with rosettes, embedded in the metal structure, designed by Victor Laloux to give his station an antique look.
Directly inspired by the baths of Caracalla, which were Roman baths of considerable volume.
Architect Laloux can allow himself the luxury of interior decoration and gilding.
Very refined. The Orsay station, from its opening in 1900, was a real technological gem. To accommodate up to 150 trains per day, engineers used innovative equipment to ensure optimum comfort for passengers.
Orsay station was a laboratory for railway innovation. For electricity, everything ran on electricity.
Ahead of its time, the station was entirely lit by electricity. It also boasted one of the very first monumental electric clocks with a diameter of 4.5 meters. But above all, this new energy powered a revolutionary luggage system.
The fact that there were 2 floors posed handling problems, and that's why we created elevators.
Don't forget that in 1900, elevators aren't widespread. Really is an innovation that electricity, this new energy vector, allows at this time.
The station's 12 elevators enabled luggage to be raised and lowered at a speed of 1 meter per second. Another innovation enabled by electricity, these inclined alloy fiber conveyor belts hoist luggage 8 meters above the platforms to a dedicated space behind the clock.
People collect their luggage from a bench where it's displayed, just like in an airport today.
But this pioneering station soon became obsolete. With the increase in traffic, the monument again came up against its original problem, the lack of space.
When it was built, it was fine. It was big, vast, but it soon became too cramped.
In 1912, just 12 years after its inauguration, The Paris-Orléans company were looking to extend the Orsay station. It states that during busy periods, the station wasn't up to the task of handling traffic flows. The cost of the work needed to extend the station was estimated at 16 million old francs, a colossal sum equal to around 64 million euros today.
They considered extending downwards, but it was impossible. They'd have to dig under buildings again, mammoth works.
Faced with these difficulties, the Paris-Orléans company chose to gradually abandon its prestigious Orsay station.
Just before the Second World War, they decided to halt the mainline trains, so the station only lived for 30 years.
And it would be a long sleep for the Sleeping Beauty.
Even if some suburban trains continued to run, the station was forgotten, and the sumptuous nave gradually deteriorated.
Here we are with the building of significant scale. And the question is, what do we do with the vessel?
The story of Orsay, however, was far from over. A new chapter commenced for this unique monument. Between 1945 and 1980, Orsay had several different lives. In 1945, it acted as a reception centre for former prisoners of war and deportees returned from Germany. When Abbé Pierre called in the winter of 1954, it was used as a donation centre to help the homeless brave one of the harshest winters Paris had ever seen. In the 1970s, a big top was installed at one end of the nave, with theatre performances given by the Renaud Barrault company.
Several things happen. It becomes a parking lot, so there are absolutely amazing photos where you see cars instead of passengers.
It was in the 1980s that Orsay would finally rise from the ashes, thanks to the fabulous project of installing a museum with the finest works of the 19th century.
It was a very good idea, imagining a 19th century museum. But the hard part was imagining how it would fit inside a former station.
After the construction of a mythical station on the site of a former ruined palace, the monument was gearing up for another metamorphosis. The transformation into a great museum, unique in the world.
Orsay station became an extraordinary object, one which heralded a shift in the way people saw museums.
Since its opening in 1986, the Musée d'Orsay has seen almost 100 million visitors come and go. With its masterpieces by Van Gogh and by Gauguin, it is one of the most famous museums in the world.
The Musée d'Orsay
was an artistic creation during the second half of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th in all its forms. Painting, sculpture, the decorative arts, impressionist masterpieces, cinema too.